Guitar Ninjas, Eric Andres, your Guitar Sage here. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about more melodic solos using one chord vamps. So this is part one, and we're going to be looking at major chords. So, folks ask all the time, they say, how can I make more melodic solos? And I would say that most guitar players would agree, or at least ones that can create melodic solos, they would agree that having some sort of idea as to what chord is being played and knowing the arpeggio or knowing the color notes from that chord is a very important thing to do. Because if we're having a conversation, if you and I are having a conversation, which music is a conversation, then the more we know the specific subject, means the more that we're going to be able to communicate together. So yes, you could be in a specific key. In this case, we'll be looking at the key of C major. And technically, we could play any of the notes that are in the C major scale. But if a C major chord is being played, then the notes are a C, E, and G. Those are the three notes that make up a C major chord. And so because of that, anytime we play a C, E, or G out of the C major scale, when those notes are played on top of that chord, they're going to rest more because they're part of the chord. It's just literally the foundation. If we were having a conversation about something, it's the foundational part of that conversation, musically speaking. So, in the case of a C major chord, whether it's this one, any of them, doesn't matter what C major chord we're playing, they're made up of C, E's, and G's, and so resting on those notes are going to sound better, okay? So now first off, let's take a look at the diagram here. Now this diagram that you're looking at is the C major pentatonic scale. Pentatonic meaning the 5-note scale. And I want you to notice the red dots are the C's, or the root of the chord and the scale. They're the most stable note out of any of the notes in here, okay? All the notes that you're seeing there is 5 notes, but then repeated a few octaves, okay? The black notes are just notes that are within the pentatonic scale and not within the chord. The red notes represent the C, which is one of the notes in the scale and one of the notes, the tonic of the key and the chord. And the notes that are green denote that it's a chordal note. And so what we want to do is, when we're playing our licks, you could do this by knowing this information. By the way, we're doing it here visually, or you could just discover this by your ear. Growing up as a wee lad playing guitar, I discovered this stuff just by using my ear and was like, boy, that note sounds better. I didn't really know why, but then later on I discovered through the magic of music theory, I discovered why that was, and that was very helpful. So either way you go about it, it's fine. You're going to end up in the same place. Knowing it both ways is great, okay? So we have our chord. In this case here, we could use any form. I just chose one in particular so that you can get used to this. Also, by the way, this weekend I'm dropping 2 jams. They're just vamps. Major chord on Saturday, minor chord on Sunday, and then on Monday I'll have a lesson on the minor version of this. It's going to be the part 2. So it's sandwiched in between those two are going to be the jam tracks for you to check out, okay? So again, here we have our major chord, C major. And so our color notes are right here. We also have one hidden right there as a third. So those are the notes that we want to rest on. It doesn't mean we can't rest on the other notes, but it's going to sound more melodic if we rest on the chord notes. Music's all about tension and release. So when we're not playing one of the chordal tones, there's more tension, and then we resolve it to one of the chord tones, then we have that release. Just like a suspended chord suspends, the 4 is the note that's kind of outside, and then it resolves back down to the 3, which is one of our chordal notes, and we could do that. Okay, so for instance, What I've got playing here is just going to be a C major chord. And what I want you to notice is that the notes that I rest on, so if I play a lick like, then this note is outside, this note's outside, but this is a chordal tone, and so it's going to sound better if we noodle with this, okay, if we rest on that note. So this is just to give you an idea so that when those jam tracks drop, you can go along with me and work on these parts together and get this idea, this concept into your head. Okay, so here we go. This is just a 1-chord vamp, C major, and I'll be using C major pentatonic over it. Watch, the notes that I rest on are the chordal tones. Here we go. Okay, so now, even though that solo is not going to go down in history as being the greatest solo of all times, that's okay. What we're trying to do is just get this concept. And so you notice that even though I used pentatonic only, I could have used diatonic, the major scale, right? I could have thrown in the other two notes. The difference between the major scale and the major pentatonic scale, which we're using here, is the major pentatonic scale leaves out the 4 and the 7th scale degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It leaves out the 4 and the 7. Just leaves some real stable notes, but again, we could use diatonic or the major scale here. Concept would be the same. We still have chordal tones. We want to rest on those. We want to noodle around with the other notes to create that tension, okay? So it literally is as simple as that, and if you notice that the top 4 strings here, I've got that chord sitting right there. I can pull off to the first 2. And for the strings 3 and 4, I'm going to hammer up. And for the 5th string, I've got a chordal tone here and a chordal tone here. And for the 6th string, I have a chordal tone right here. So this is I can pull off there, or just pick those 2 notes. A very helpful thing that you can do, or a very melodic thing that you can do, is to do something like that sort of thing. Now that may not work in the vibe of what we're doing here, but in that case here we have a 5, a 3, and a 1. They're all notes straight out of the scale. Many guitar players over the decades have used this technique for creating arpeggios and that sort of thing that would sound great with this if it fits the context of it, is what I'm saying. So like if it's a bluesy vibe, that may not work because that's not really a bluesy thing that we might do. But if it works, melodically, if it works with the vibe of the song, then I would say go for it. You could also do the same thing with this right here. In that case here, these 2 notes are right out of our chord. So if I played a lick like that, I'm playing 2 notes out of the chord there. So. So even though that's not a lick that's going to change the world, again, we've got the 5, the 3, and the 1. Just kind of gives you some idea of how you could really sound more melodic by staying right there within the chordal tones. Now again, music's all about tension and release. If everything is so tonal, if everything's all about release, I guess I should say if you're just playing the chord tones, it's going to sound very boring, like an elementary song. Like children are drawn to elementary songs, very simple songs, because just like their palate, just like their taste palate, they haven't grown into that yet, right? And as we grow as a musician, we want our ears to be more challenged because things get boring. So in that case, that's when you could bring in some of those outside notes. But in the beginning, it might sound great to sound more melodic and more right on the chord there. And again, that's what we're practicing anyhow. So do that, overdo that to start so that you're sure of where those color notes are. Color notes are the chord notes. And then you could bring in those tension notes whenever you want to as you grow as a musician. But you really want to make sure that you have this basic concept down first, okay? Now, I know some of this went over your guys' heads. If it did, friends, the very first link below is UGS Standard, the Unstoppable Guitar System Standard. Over 500,000 people have gone through this already. You will not be sorry. It's yours absolutely for free. Or come and visit me here in Nashville. We'll do the same set of lessons. It'll be well over $1,000. It's up to you. Click on the link or join me in Nashville and we'll go over that. That's free for you. If you're watching on mobile right now, I understand you may not have the opportunity to go do that. So text me, 833-744-0154. Text FREE, F-R-E-E, to that number. I will set you up with the course. All right, friends, as always, be kind to all beings. Do the right thing always. Practice your guitar. I'll see you in the next video. And watch for that jam track tomorrow. See ya.